Just the lighting. It's really started. Yep, it started.
Okay, we'll start the service now. I would like to thank everyone for coming today. I would like this service to be interactive, which means I would like you, the members of the audience, to participate in the service. So if you have anything to share regarding Howard, please either stand up or put your hand up and I will give you the floor. I would like to start the service off with a prayer. Please remain seated. Dear God, creator of all things, we thank you for the life of Howard Walker and thank you for allowing us to be part of that life. As painful as it is to lose a partner, a parent, and a friend, we want to thank you for giving him peace at last and leaving us with good memories. Amen. I have known Howard all my life. I can't remember the first time we met, but I'm sure I was with my father, who was a good friend of Howard's. I do remember Howard saying that he had a son named David too. We often met at lodge functions, and when I turned 21, I joined Xenophon Lodge in Wheatley. Howard took a part of the initiation ceremony. He gave all the prayers. Howard was a past master and a very worshipful Grand Lodge steward and a 32nd degree Mason. We haven't had a lodge service since Howard passed away, but we sure will miss him and all the work he did. Howard and I joined a number of other lodges together. We often traveled and did work together. Howard loved to go to Grand Lodge in Toronto every summer, where we enjoyed a drink or two, and Howard was known to sing some non-Masonic songs in the hospitality suite. Those of you who went to Grand Lodge with Howard know what I mean. Howard was an excellent woodworker. He built for me a beautiful lighthouse, which stood on my front porch for 20 years. He was in the process of building me a new lighthouse when he passed away. Rosemary gave me the unfinished lighthouse, and I hope to be able to finish it someday. Howard was a member of the Eastern Star, and I'll call on Debbie Gagnon to come and say a few words.
First of all, I would like to thank Howard's family for giving me this honor of speaking on Howard's Eastern Star journey. And what a journey. Howard always claimed that he would join the Eastern Star when the Pope did. Imagine the surprise on Rose and Rosemary's face when that petition came in. So, on May 10, 1992, Howard Walker, alone, no Pope in tow, was initiated into Imperial Chapter number 21. To initiate your own husband and to be chaplain for your father, who said he would never join, was truly heartwarming. Howard left behind not what was engraved on a stone at a monument, but what had been woven into the lives of his Eastern Star sisters and brothers. Howard held many offices: associate patron, and in 2002, 2003, was Sister Barbara Jacobs as worthy matron in the Journey of Jerusalem year. He was worthy patron, with Sister Betty St. Ange as worthy grand matron and Brother Dean Murdy as worthy grand patron. And then in 2006, 2007, Country Charm and Hospitality year, with myself as worthy matron, It was also the year that Howard's daughter, Rosemary, was Grand Electa, and his wife, Rose, was her escort. In 2013 to 2015, in Magic of the Midnight Sun year, he was given the honor of Grand Representative of New Jersey and Ontario. What this means is he represents New Jersey and Ontario, therefore he wouldn't have to go to the States, and so he not only traveled in Ontario, but he also traveled to the States. He was given this honor by worthy grand patron Brother Paul Hooper. I have no idea how many times Howard was Grand Guard at our Grand Chapter sessions. He had held many offices in Imperial Chapter as Marshal and at last as Sentinel for myself and Brother Kim Taylor. Howard didn't just hold offices for Imperial, he was also our carpenter, our suppers, potato peeler, table setter upper, tea pourer, and whatever else needed to be done. During our meetings, Howard made sure the coffee was ready, hot water for our tea, and everything was set up for our social time. He was always one of the first men to help put away our furniture after each meeting, and the list goes on. Howard also believed if he couldn't memorize his work as worthy patron and had to read it, it had to be read well. In order to do this, he built a small stool out of the same wood that our podium is made out of, so it wouldn't be noticed. And this was to set his books on so he could do the best job possible. During our year as worthy matron and worthy patron, I asked Howard if he could build an outdoor country wooden wheelbarrow for a fundraising draw. Howard doing the work Howard did, in my opinion, was not just an outdoor country wheelbarrow, but a piece of furniture. When we start back to our meetings, it's going to be very tough to start the meeting knowing Howard is not standing there as Sentinel. In closing, I want to leave you with some Howard thoughts. I'm calling them Howardisms. No rain, no rainbow. Goodbyes are not forever, are not the end. They just simply mean we'll miss you till we meet again. Death is not extinguishing the light. It is putting out the lamp because dawn has come. And most important, Howard died a meaningful life, not a meaningless one. This was all done in Starlight.
Thank you, Debbie. That was very, very nice. Howard was the master builder here at Two Creeks, and I'll call on Bruce Jackson for a few words now.
Howard Walker, the master builder. I've been involved with Howard on many projects for 40 years. He had a particular way of doing things, whether you approved of it or not. He was a perfectionist on anything he built. When he was finished something, all you ended up with was a pile of sawdust and a few scraps of lumber. He was also very punctual. When he said he was gonna start by 8 o'clock, you better be there by 7:45 because he was ready. Howard was a very valuable member of the Wheatley Lions Club. In the early 80s, the home school, Wheatley Public, needed help installing playground equipment. A lot of holes had to be dug. Howard brought out his post hole digger, which was made out of a Willys Jeep chassis with a Volkswagen Beetle engine. Howard had to leave at lunchtime. He left me in charge. Things were good until I tried to get off that seat. The seat was a one-piece molded plastic with a crack in the center, and it would open up when you sat down. However, when you stood up, it would close and catch you. Not good. In 1983, Howard and the Lions Club constructed the 25 by 50 foot picnic shelter at the Reid complex. He also built a concession stand that the Lions was used at the tractor boats and also the tugboat races at the harbor for several years. Shortly after that, Howard and the Masons transformed the Anglican church in the town into a Masonic lodge and also turned the basement into a daycare. Once the memorial grave was established, Howard would dig the holes for the posts. On one occasion, he drilled 17 holes in one day. There are over 250 posts in the grove. Howard, in 2003, Howard and the friends, two creeks, started this 40 by 100 foot pavilion. The trusses were hoisted up in place by Howard's boom truck, which was called Old Yellow. It was made from an old World War II Army truck with a 52 Ford flathead V8 engine. On one day, the Chatham Kent building inspector dropped in to check on the building. When he found out that Howard had been a building inspector for Wheatley, Romney Township, all he wanted to know was their shortcut to Stevenson. Howard told them he better go down number 3. The pavilion was finished in 2005. It's only fitting that we are celebrating Howard's life under the very structure he built. In 2010, Howard and the friends of Two Creeks built a storage building next to the driveway, the one with the letter H. This building was framed with white ash, full 2x4s from Howard's bush. In 2015, Howard and the friends of Two Creeks built a second storage building. A month ago, Two Creeks Association placed a plaque under the letter H on the first building to honor Howard for all the work he has done here. The plaque states, in memory of Howard Walker, 1930-2020, master builder of Two Creeks. There are also a couple of trees dedicated to Howard's memory. The Kentucky tribe, their tree in the memorial rose with a Wheatley Lions Club. And this basswood tree by the pavilion at Two Creeks. As you see, Howard Walker left a very large legacy here at Two Creeks, as well as in the town over the years. A legacy his family can be very proud of.
Thank you, Bruce. That was very, very good. Howard spent a lot of time outdoors, and he loved to hunt and fish. He enjoyed gardening. Now, Joe Drummond, are you willing to come and say a few words in this area?
Well, Howard was a builder, but he wasn't just a builder with wood. He built a wonderful family, and I've had the opportunity throughout my life to share some time with all of them. And our hunting camp, we've been around for over a century. Howard has been there since, I think, 1960. We have a picture hanging on the wall of our camp from 1964. And pictures from every year since, pretty much. But Howard built family He built friendships, and he built relationships through all the service clubs that he was involved in. I've heard some of the songs that you were talking about, Dave. Well, I've heard them all a few times. And our two other clubs that we share our ground with up north have sent their condolences to the family. And I wanted to thank Rose and Rosemary for the opportunity that they've allowed Howard to come back to the camp the last few years. He took a number of years off. It was too cold until Dave started hunting again. And then Dave managed to talk him into coming back out for the last 3 or 4 years. And all of us have so appreciated the opportunity to spend some more time with Howard. And anything we did around our camp, we had to run it by Howard. We had to get his okay before we pull a nail or lift a finger. So, but Howard was quiet, unassuming. But if you went to Howard and he gave you okay, you knew you had a good plan. And I think everybody from the Eastern Star and the Lodge and everyone, I think they all worked on the same basis. If Howard said it was okay, it was a good idea. We shared the last few years with Howard at the camp again. And just wanted to thank Rosemary. I know you've gone out of your way to make sure Howard could come up and staying with Rose. And I'm glad Dave came back. Dave was missing for a number of years, and he walked back in, and he's like Howard. He walked in, he fit, he's quiet and unassuming, and just like he'd never been gone. And that's the way Howard was with the young guys in the camp too. So I just wanted to thank the family for allowing us the opportunity to share some more time with Howard.
Thank you, Joe. That was very good. Now, I'd like to open it up. Is there anyone in the audience that has something they would like to share with everyone regarding Howard? Don't be shy. It's actually warm up here when the sun's shining. Is there anyone? Yes, please come forward.
I'm Doug Reid, for some of you people who don't know who I am. And I first met Howard about 45 years ago. And over the course of them 45 years, a man never aged. He aged physically, but not mentally or spiritually. There was a lot of fun in Howard. And we done a lot of work for him and with him, and sometimes against him. Howard, if you're doing something and you're discussing with him, Howard would always say, well, that's one way of doing it. And you never really knew whether it was the right way of doing it, or sometimes we done it the way we wanted to. It was the right way of doing it. Howard, Dave was mentioning his singing abilities. I learned that one day. It was a cold, nasty day. We were working on the shed at his place. We decided to go and get warmed up. And the fire was on, but Howard dug around and found a bottle. And after a few sips, he threw the cap away, and then he got singing pretty good. So it was a pretty good time. When Howard came back from his trip to England, he was expounding about all of famous architecture. Previously, when we were putting on siding or anything, Howard would always say, make a cardboard pattern or you'll screw it up. Well, we never did. We just measured out all the time. So when he got back from England and telling about the cathedrals and stuff, little brother asked him if he brought us any cardboard patterns. No, he says, no, I said, darling, he says, you smart fuckers. So, but if we ever screw up for lack of a cardboard pattern, I know Howard would be chuckling and saying, "Oh, that's one way to do it." Howard was my mentor, a confidant, and most of all, he was my friend, and I sure miss him.
Thank you very much. That's the type of story we'd like to hear. Is there anyone else that would like to share something? Yes, please come forward.
Hi, for those of you who don't know us, I'm Sandra and this is Jake, and we had the ultimate pleasure of being Howard Rose's neighbors for the last 11 years. And we were always quiet and we kept to ourselves, but we've always just wanted to say thank you, because without the opportunity you guys gave us as two 20-year-old newlyweds to have a home, we wouldn't have our family. And we owe so much to you, Rose, and to Howard, who was always there for us whenever we needed help. When our car blew up, and he let us use your van until we could get ours fixed. Anything we ever needed, Howard was always right there, making us young kids look bad. He always was helping everybody he knew, and even those he didn't. And Howard meant the world to us. And you mean the world to us too, Rose. You've watched our daughter grow. And you've taught us so much, and watching Howard is who we aspire to be. When we grow up, we want to be known like Howard was, as a pillar in the community and a friend to everyone he met. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that. It was very, very good. Very nice. Is there anyone else that has something they would like to share? Yes, please, come over.
I'm Jean Aitchison from Stratford, and I'm here to tell you about friendship. My father-in-law recruited Howard to work with him and sell and build beaver lumber buildings. So that was a wonderful, wonderful partnership. And I'm sure some of the people here have worked on those buildings. But it went much farther than that. It was an incredible friendship. I've just driven from Stratford to here. It's 2.5 hours. And Howard and Rose would make that trip. And my in-laws, Roy and Helen Aitchison, would come down here. Not only that, but with David and with the whole family. They traveled. They had to represent beaver lumber at plowing matches, and you can imagine the fun that went along with that. So relationships and friendships are precious. This is Thanksgiving weekend. Just hold on to those friendships. Hold on to those relationships, because that's what life is all about. Thank you, Rose and Howard, for all those wonderful, wonderful memories.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I know everyone who ever worked with Howard always said what a great person he was to work with. Is there anyone else that has something they'd like to share? Asking once, asking twice, 3 times. Okay, I will now call upon David to give the last words.
I have a few more notes than some of you. On behalf of the Walker family, I would like to thank all of you here today. Those of you who are watching via streaming or the recording, those who sent condolences and donations, and to everyone who has called or visited Rose in the last few months. Thank the Reid Funeral Home staff for helping plan the service, directing people, and keeping us up to date on the evolving COVID-19 rules. I'd also like to thank David Derbyshire for being our officiant at this service, and for Brian Covey, who has provided the sound system. COVID has made the world a different place since early March, and it's difficult for everyone, not only in Ontario, but across Canada and around the world. We all hope that it gets under control in the near future. Here's the story of Howard. Howard Wayne was born in the farmhouse on the 11th concession on August 13, 1930, to Lois Imogene and Henry Gaines Walker. He joined his older sister Velma in the Walker family. Some of you probably think I made a mistake and don't know my grandfather's name, but officially it was Henry, and for reasons unknown to us, he was always called Harry. 1930 was the time of the Great Depression that most of us have only heard about. Maybe that's where Dad developed his, if it has any possible future use, don't get rid of it attitude. Dad grew up on the farm, and like everyone else at that time, they had some cows and chickens, so there were always chores to do. At some point, Harry started doing more carpentry work than farming. Howard eventually followed him into that trade. He attended Windfall Public School on the 11th, just a half mile down the road. Walking or riding his bike were the only methods of getting to school. You see the picture on the video. He's in the second row from the left and the second from the front. He was kind of cute. Rosemary, Brent, and I also started our education at the same school. And most of the time, walking or riding our bikes was the way to get there. Howard continued on to Wheatley for high school. We think he graduated grade 9, but we aren't really sure. He decided that school wasn't really for him. And he never talked about school much other than to tell us that Wheatley High School, he had the same Mr. Richardson we had for math at Leamington Secondary when we went there. We believe he would have gotten good marks in math. My son Mark still marvels at how his grandfather could add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions faster in his head than Mark can do on his calculator. I guess years of carpentry experience. After high school, he took a small engine repair course in Chatham. During the years up to this point, that's when he must have developed his interest and enjoyment in building and fixing things mechanical. He liked to read about them as well, and some of the ideas came from magazines. We found copies of Popular Mechanics from the early 60s, and he still subscribed. In today's world, he would very likely have gone on to university and become an engineer. He started building significant things in his teens. One of the pictures in the slideshow shows Dad and his cousin Wayne Beatty on a scooter Dad built before he moved up to an Indian motorcycle, and that's in one of the following pictures. He worked at Heinz for a bit, but soon joined Harry in the building trade. They were known as quality builders and were never short of work. That was in the days when the trades were electricians, plumbers, painters, plasterers, and carpenters. And carpenters did everything else, including the concrete work, the drywall, roofing, laying, flooring, etc. They didn't have specialties, so people came in and just put in the floors and the carpets. People that poured the concrete and did all the troweling. The carpenters did all that. Howard did a lot of the specialty work like the drywall filling because he was fussy. Rose and Howard met at a Friday night dance in Comber. They got together the next night too. And they were married March 11th, 1950. And as most of you know, celebrated their 70th anniversary this past March. You know that the anniversary celebration was canceled due to COVID-19 situation that was just unfolding. They raised the three of us in the house that Dad built using wood he cut from the back of the farm. He had it sawn and used it for framing the house they still lived in. We certainly have no complaints. He continued building until Beaver Lumber approached him about becoming their sales rep for farm buildings in the mid-60s. The work was certainly less stressful on the body, so it seemed like a good idea. This is when Howard's inventive nature really started to kick in. One of the first problems with farm buildings was always getting the post holes dug. So he designed and built the post hole digger from an old Volkswagen van. Went through several modifications, but has probably dug a few thousand holes with minimal trouble. Apparently except the seat. Putting up trusses was hard work too, somewhat dangerous, and sometimes required a costly crane to come in, putting you at the mercy of the rental company. Solution? Build a lift on a truck you owned. Probably took a while to find it, but he bought a 1940 four-wheel drive army truck that was sitting behind the farm where he had put up a building. I helped tow it home, and that was an experience, because I got to sit in the army truck and steer it with no brakes. He proceeded to get it running and then designed and built the boom. Later, he added forks for lifting shingles to the roof, a bucket for moving snow and gravel, and a blade for grading, and it still runs. Putting steel on the sidewalls of buildings was time-consuming and again a bit dangerous because you were always working from ladders. Solution? Build a movable scaffolding. So he bought a farm wagon frame, built a scaffold system you could easily crank to different heights, and just tow it around the building as needed with the boom truck. Howard retired from selling farm buildings when he turned 65. Soon after, another opportunity presented itself and he became the building inspector for Wheaton. It was part-time and suited him well. Eased him into retirement. Howard enjoyed having a vegetable garden. Planting the garden was always a major family event. The cultivator he used was heavy and a bit awkward, so another opportunity for inventing and building. A riding tractor with cultivator and the added benefit of a mower deck was soon in the design and build phase. Car transmission, spring-assisted lift, and handmade mower deck were all incorporated, along with the old cultivator clutch and cultivator base. Cultivator can still be used, but he moved on to a new improved zero-turn mower you will see in one of the pictures. I'm sure that some of you have benefited from Howard's tomatoes, beans, and certainly asparagus. The last picture in the slideshow shows the lineup of Howard's inventions, and these are only ones that moved on wheels. There are lots of others. In his retirement, he started fixing lawnmowers, specifically derelict riding lawnmowers that people were getting rid of. He would cobble together parts from a couple mowers to create one, rebuild the motor and or deck, and then give it away to a family or some family member or someone who needed more. And by the way, we have a collection of derelict lawnmower bodies and motors and parts in case any of you are looking for something for your mower. Boating, hunting, and fishing have always been favorite things of Dad's. Around 1955, he ordered a plan through the mail and built his own 15-foot plywood boat. It still floats, and we used it for fishing the last time we went 2 years ago. Dad was a member of the Wheatley Hunt Club for almost 60 years. Camp was used as a hunting and fishing base with a bit of fun and lots of stories mixed in. It's a fishing story. We had decided it was lunchtime, so we looked for a piece of shoreline where we could pull up 2 boats. Howard volunteered to pull the first boat in. 1 foot in the boat and 1 on shore, and it was a bit windy. I turned to my son and said, "This isn't going to end well." So a few seconds later, Howard's hanging on the edge of the boat in the water up to his waist. We managed to get the boat pushed into shore where he could walk out. There's at least 3 other witnesses here today if you want to verify that story. As you've already heard, Dad was a member of the Masonic Lodge, Scottish Rite, Blue Lodge, Eastern Star, and Lions Club. It's important to say that he was a committed member. He very seldom missed a meeting, went through the various officer positions, and was known as doing a good job in all the activities. Howard and Rose always enjoyed camping. As a family, we went on different camping adventures, including a trip to Expo 67. They gradually upgraded to a small house trailer and eventually to the 23-foot trailer they still used in the last couple of years. Dad decided in the early age that accuracy was a good thing, as those of you who worked with him already know. Having staked out lots of buildings with him, I know that the corner-to-corner measurements of this position, like that corner to that corner and this corner to this corner, are probably within an inch or less of each other. Any joints in his trim fit exactly. No glue or filler required. Howard was a good planner. He very seldom forgot a tool he might need or missed material for a project or building. One of my favorite stories comes from my son's wedding from Mark's father-in-law, Rob McDonald. The wedding day was hot. Service was over and the beverage table was open and had a lineup. Dad was walking away from the table with one beer in his hand and one in each of his two suit jacket pockets. He didn't want to have to stand in line again. He was heading ahead. Howard could and did start up conversations with just about anyone. He could tell stories of personal experiences or other things he had been told, or just talk about current events. People look forward to seeing Howard at meetings or other events. He liked a good party. I have memories of him walking around the yard, handing out beer bottles from the 6-quart basket he loaded up in the garage. I won't talk about any parties at the hunt camp. He didn't hand out advice unless you asked for it or were going to totally mess up. He was a good teacher, though. An acquaintance told me a couple weeks ago that he still builds barn doors the way Howard taught him many years ago. Dad went in the hospital on March 21st with severe abdominal pain. He had surgery for colon cancer on the 24th. Recovery looked promising, but he couldn't shake an infection that had set in. He passed away on April 3rd. It's hard to talk about losing a best friend. That's what Dad was to me. He taught me so many things. How to hold a hammer so you have the best chance of hitting the right nail. How to change the oil in my car. How to cut rafters. The list goes on. What a friend. We all miss Howard. He's left a legacy. Proud family. This building, farm buildings throughout the county, houses in the area, stories at hunt camp, all of his inventions and creations, and the list goes on. Thanks again for attending, watching, and providing your support to Rose, the family. Thank you, David. That was very moving and very true. We will now end this celebration of Howard's life with a closing prayer we all know. Please remain seated. Let us repeat the Lord's Prayer in unison. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Here endeth the service. You may go now.